Good morning, everyone. Today, I would like to share my thoughts on the theme, humans and nature. In our daily lives, we are supported by the gifts of nature. Food, water, air, all of these come from nature. Yet in modern society, we often treat nature as if it were only a problem for resource. As a result, serious problems such as climate change, deforestation, and the loss of biodiversity are spreading around the world. Of course, it's not as if we're doing nothing. We recycle, we save energy, we expand the use of renewable energy. These efforts are very important and must continue. But at the same time, I cannot help but feel these actions alone may not be enough to protect the future. One reason is the law of nature, sometimes explained through the idea of entropy. No matter how efficient we try to be, every use of energy, every transformation of resources always produces some loss. That means that doing things more efficiently, or recycling again and again, by itself cannot solve the fundamental problem. So what should we do? I believe we must rethink the relationship between humans and nature in a more philosophical way. Instead of seeing nature as something to be managed, we need to see it as a partner in living. In other words, we should move from asking, how can we use nature, to asking, how can we live together with nature? This shift may also change our economic system. Instead of always seeking ore consumption and more growth, we could aim for a society that values seeing what we need carefully and living in harmony with nature. Education, too, should not only teach knowledge and calculation, but also encourage us to think about what it means to live as human beings within nature. Rethinking the relationship between humans and nature is not easy, but if we continue on the same path as today, it is we ourselves and the generations to come who will suffer the consequences. That is why we must not only keep up efforts like recycling and saving energy, but also take one step further and develop a new philosophy. Finally, let me sum up my view in one sentence. Nature is not something to be dominated. It is a partner we live with. Beyond daily efforts, rethinking this relationship itself will be the key to protecting our future. Thank you very much.
All right, listeners, today we're tuned into a track older than any beat on the charts, the relationship between humans and nature. It's been playing forever, but the mix has changed. Once, people moved with the rhythm of the seasons, farming by daylight and resting with the stars. Now cities hum all night, machines never sleep, and nature feels more like background noise than the main melody. But here's the truth. The beat of nature still drives everything, whether we hear it or not. Let's talk about the remix we've been told. Recycling, energy saving, renewable energy. These are the hooks repeated in every environmental campaign. Important, yes. Necessary, yes. But let's be real, they are not the whole track. Recycling slows down waste, but doesn't erase entropy. Energy saving reduces use, but doesn't change the system of endless demand. Renewables shine bright, but even solar panels and wind turbines require mining, materials, and maintenance. These are verses, not the chorus. Helpful, but not enough to carry the song. What's the noise underneath? It's climate change, biodiversity loss, melting ice, rising seas, forests cut down, oceans choked with plastic. These aren't side effects. They definitely are signals that the track itself is distorted. We've been running the world on a loop of growth, extraction, and consumption. And like any loop played too long, it starts to crackle and break. Entropy is real. Every transformation produces loss, heat, disorder. That's physics, not politics. So where does that leave us? Here's the drop. We need a new philosophy of living with nature. Not nature as resource, or nature as scenery, but nature as part of the band. Humans aren't DJs outside the club, pressing play. We've been dancers inside it, moving to the same rhythm. When we pretend we can control the beat forever, we clash with the laws of thermodynamics. When we listen, adapt, and co-create, the music flows. This new track doesn't reject technology, it reframes it. Instead of asking, how can technology let us keep the same lifestyle forever? We should ask, how can technology help us live differently, more in tune with natural cycles? That means designing systems not just for efficiency, but for harmony. It means valuing balance over speed, sufficiency over excess. It means asking not only, what can we take, but what can we sustain? And here's where the bridge comes in. Philosophy matters. If we see nature as external, something to use, manage, or fix, we will always end up pushing limits. If we see nature as something we belong to, then the conversation changes. Work, cities, food, energy, all become parts of a bigger composition. Imagine schools teaching not just math and science, but ecological humility. Imagine economics measured not only in growth, but in resilience. Imagine politics not only debating resources, but recognizing the rights of rivers, forests, and ecosystems. That's the remix we need. Of course, there's tension in the beat. People want comfort, jobs, progress. Nobody wants to give up everything. But the point isn't giving up, it's shifting the rhythm. Do we need endless plastic packaging, lights blazing all night, machines built to break after 2 years? Or can we find joy in durability, repair, sharing, and rethinking what progress means? These aren't technical fixes. They're cultural choices. So as we fade to the outro, remember this. The old track of recycling, energy saving, and renewables isn't wrong, but it's just a single instrument. The full song needs philosophy, imagination, and courage. Entropy won't stop, but we can choose how to dance with it. Will we keep forcing the beat until the speakers blow? Or will we find a way to play in harmony with the only rhythm that has ever truly mattered? The rhythm of nature itself. Stay tuned, stay awake, and let the music of the earth remind you. This is not background noise. This is the main beat.
Let us begin with a simple question. When we speak of protecting nature, what do we really mean? Do we mean planting more trees, recycling our plastic bottles, switching from coal to wind and solar? These actions, while important, rest on a certain picture of the world, that nature is a resource, an external backdrop, and that if we only manage it more efficiently, through better technology, better policies, better habits, we can sustain our way of life. But is this picture adequate? Or are we in need of a deeper rethinking of our relationship to the natural world? For centuries, humans have imagined themselves as separate from nature. In ancient myths, nature was revered as sacred, filled with gods, spirits, and mysteries. But with the rise of modern science and the Industrial Revolution, a new philosophy took hold. Nature became something to analyze, measure, and ultimately control. Descartes spoke of making ourselves masters and possessors of nature. And in many ways, that dream came true. We extracted fossil fuels, cleared forests, built sprawling cities, and extended human lifespans. We became, in effect, DJs of the planet, pinning the tracks of progress, assuming that we controlled the beat. Yet the law of entropy, the second law of thermodynamics, reminds us of something humbling. Every transformation produces disorder. Every use of energy leaves waste. Every system has limits. No matter how efficient we become, no matter how advanced our technology, entropy never disappears. Recycling can slow down waste, but it cannot erase it. Energy-saving appliances reduce consumption, but they cannot undo the fact that demand keeps expanding. Renewable energy offers hope, but even solar panels and wind turbines require metals, mining, and manufacturing that generate their own costs. To pretend that these measures alone can solve the environmental crisis is to overlook the deeper philosophical problem. Here is the challenge. Are we content to treat nature as an external system we manage, or must we reconceive ourselves as part of nature itself? If we see nature as beyond scenery or resource, then our solutions will always remain partial, patchwork fixes. But if we see nature as a community we belong to, then the meaning of progress itself must change. Consider an analogy. Imagine a society where justice is measured only by efficiency, how quickly goods are produced, how smoothly transactions occur. Now imagine a society where justice also means fairness, dignity, and mutual respect. The first society may function, but it is shallow. The second society recognizes that human life is about more than output. In the same way, environmental policies that emphasize only efficiency, recycling more, wasting less, producing energy more cleanly, are valuable, but they risk missing the deeper moral truth. That our relationship to nature is not only technical, but ethical. This brings us to the question of responsibility. Do we owe something to future generations, even those not yet born? If so, how do we account for the fact that entropy will limit what we can pass down? Is it enough to say, we recycled, we saved energy, we built solar farms? Or must we ask, did we change the way we live, the way we value nature, the way we understand ourselves within the web of life? Some philosophers and activists argue that nature itself should have rights, that rivers, forests, and ecosystems deserve recognition not merely as resources, but as subjects of moral and legal concern. Others suggest that we must move beyond anthropocentrism, the human-centered worldview, and embrace what is called an ecocentric ethic, one that places value on the flourishing of the whole ecological system, not just human convenience. Whether or not we endorse these proposals, they confront us with a difficult question. Is it enough to preserve nature for human use, or must we honor nature as something with value independent of us? Let us return to the theme of music. If humanity is a DJ and the planet is a track we spin, then we are doomed to distortion. No matter how clever the remix, more recycling, more renewables, the groove will eventually break down. But if humanity is not the DJ, but one instrument in a larger band, then the task is different. The task is to play in tune, to improvise without drowning out the others, to listen as well as perform. This requires humility, virtue not often associated with modern civilization. So what would it mean to cultivate this humility? It would mean recognizing limits not as failures, but as truths. It would mean designing our cities, our economies, and our technologies not to conquer entropy, but to live with it. It would mean asking not only, can we extend growth, but what forms of life are worth sustaining? In other words, we must move from a philosophy of mastery to a philosophy of belonging. This is not an easy shift. We are accustomed to equating progress with more wealth, more consumption, more speed. But perhaps the time has come to equate progress with depth, deeper respect, deeper resilience, deeper connection to the natural world. Imagine a curriculum that taught ecological wisdom as seriously as mathematics. Imagine an economy that rewarded durability over disposability, sufficiency over excess. Imagine politics that debated not only jobs and growth, but the integrity of ecosystems and the rights of future generations. These are not technical questions alone. They are moral questions, and they demand democratic deliberation. The philosopher Hans Jonas once said that our age requires a new ethic of responsibility, one that extends not only to our neighbors, but to the future of humanity itself. I would add it must extend also to the natural world of which we are a part. Entropy tells us we cannot escape limits. Philosophy tells us we must learn how to live within them, creatively, justly, and with humility. So the question I leave you with is this: will we continue to imagine ourselves as DJs, forcing nature into our playlists until the speakers break? Or will we accept our place in the larger orchestra of life, tuning our instruments to harmonize rather than dominate? The choice is ours, and it is not a matter of technology alone. It is a matter of ethics, of justice, and ultimately of who we are.